Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. People ask me once in a while, Steve, if I'm coming to America from another country, what do I need to know about driving laws? And also, if I get pulled over by the police, what rights do I have? So we'll talk about that today because it's an interesting question. I get this question a lot from people in Canada, but I've spoken to people in other countries. A very good friend of mine lives in England, and he came to America a few years back to attend a winged car convention. Guys who own these cars. And I was talking to him. I said, by the way, how long are you in town for? And he goes, I've been here for a few weeks. I've been driving around. I said, where have you been? And he rattled off all these different places. He's been in different states. And he's just driving around the U.S. And so a lot of people come to America and want to drive around. And so here's what you need to know. First of all, to legally drive in the U.S., you can usually do it with a foreign driver's license. And I can tell you, I've driven in France and I've driven in England. And both times I just simply had my American driver's license with me. But things have changed a little bit since then, in some respects, but I'm talking about driving in America now with a foreign driver's license. So road trips in the U.S. have become an almost mythical experience. In fact, there's movies about them. So to drive in America, here's what you need to know. Under current American law, all you need to drive in the U.S. is a valid driver's license issued by your country, and that's probably going to work for you so long as you're not here longer than 3 months. Beyond 3 months, you might have other issues, okay? Now, a foreign license to drive in the U.S. will be considered valid in 49 states. Now, here's the problem, and these things can change, by the way, is the United States is 50 states. United States of America, 50 states, each of whom have their own laws. So each state having its own laws, they can change them willy-nilly. And so Georgia, for whatever reason, is the one that screws us up and makes us say in most states. I often joke about the laws, and I'll say this is how it is in most states, of course, excepting Louisiana. Because Louisiana has different laws in some respects, and with respect to, like, say, sales. But with respect to driver's licenses, Georgia is the state that's the outlier, and they will require something different. In every other state, your foreign driver's license, together with your passport for the U.S., are sufficient documentation for you to rent a car or in case you are stopped by the police to be legally driving on the road. So you basically bring your driver's license and your passport, okay? And they say your biometric passport. So I guess that's the modern passport. I've got one. I'm not sure how biometric it is, but we'll take a look at that later. So it's possible then to drive legally in America with an Australian, UK, Irish, New Zealand driver's license. A European driver's license in the USA is also valid and will also help you rent a car. And that's the other question, is that if you come to America, I've had people tell me they want to come to America and buy a car and drive around, live dangerously. But coming to America and renting a car. But here's the question. I walk into a rental car counter in America and I drop a driver's license and a credit card, and they'll rent me a car. But they often say you've got to be 25 years old or older. And they might scrutinize you a little more carefully if you say, oh, by the way, I'm not a U.S. citizen and I've got a driver's license from another country and my passport. So the rental car companies are private companies. They can do anything they want with respect to some of this stuff. So they might have their own rules and regulations. Remember that, of course, to get into the U.S., you need to have the ability to get here legally. So the entry requirements are, going to be what matters here, but it's the driving. Once you're here, okay, you're driving down the road and a police officer pulls you over. I've done tons of articles on this and videos on this. You get pulled over by a police officer as he walks up to your car and you have a driver's license from your country and a passport. You're going to be okay, except in Georgia. Now, car rental agencies have often been changing their policies, and a greater number require an international driving permit, that's the IDP, to rent a car. So it might not be a bad idea to get a U.S. driver's license for foreigners in your home country before your arrival in America. And that way, if they ask for an IDP, you'll already have one. And because so many tourists in the U.S. carry the international permit, police are becoming more used to seeing them. So because of that, driving in America with just your foreign driver's license might raise problems from a practical viewpoint. So even though driving solely with your foreign license is technically legal, some police are going to go, wait, you don't have an IDP? And you might win that argument, but the argument might carry over into a courtroom, which you don't want to do. So The IDP basically is a thing that says, yes, this person has a driver's license. And then it's vouching for it, but it also explains it in other languages. So if you come from a country where the primary legal language is not English, for instance, and your driver's license is in another language and possibly even a different script, your driver's license is in Cyrillic, okay? The IDP will allow the police officer to look at these documents and go, oh, okay, this is a driver's license from another country, and this verifies it, so now we're good to go. Keep in mind that it's recommendable or recommended that you obtain an international driving permit before you arrive so you can rent a car without any difficulties. Because again, the rental car companies might require it even if the state they are in does not. Generally speaking, you must be at least 21 years of age or older to be able to use your foreign driving license in the U.S. Keep in mind that rental companies might require you to be 25. So, there's that. And then, of course, you have to make sure that your driver's license in your home country will stay valid during your entire stay here. Now, of course, the odds of that happening seem pretty slim, but you can imagine where you've got a driver's license and you're planning a trip and it slips your mind that, oh, by the way, your driver's license is going to expire halfway through your trip to America. So you get pulled over in America and you've got a driver's license, but it's expired. You might have a problem there too. Keep in mind that short-term visitors cannot get an IDP in the U.S. So in other words, if you get here and realize you need one, the United States does not issue IDPs to foreign visitors. So that could be a problem. So obtaining an international driving permit isn't very complicated, but it depends on your country, of course. You'll either go to a police station, post office, or the government department or ministry that deals with motor vehicles. Heaven forbid you've got a DMV. Joking. But you'll have to fill out an application, turn in requisite supplementary documents, and that's going to base on local requirements as well. So again, generally speaking, in America, if you're driving along and you've got a driver's license from your home country and your passport on you, you're going to be okay. But Georgia actually has their own licensing requirements. And some police are used to the idea of seeing the IDP and might expect you to have one, even if you're not required to have one. And bear in mind that, and this is where it gets tricky for people from other countries, in America, where I'm sitting, is actually 3 jurisdictions. There's a local municipality that has police. There's a county that has sheriffs. And there's the state, which has state police. All 3 of those law enforcement agencies overlap where I'm sitting. So that means that you're driving down the road in America. You could get pulled over by a local cop, county cop, or state cop. And I'm not even talking about the feds, but the feds generally don't do traffic enforcement. But if you're near a border, you might run into immigration people who might ask for identification and so on. But I'm talking about driving generally speaking here. So the real thing here is that the levels of professionalism and training, I'll leave it at that, that these different police organizations have varies wildly. Meaning that if you encounter a Michigan State trooper, they are generally very, very well trained, very, very professional. Same is true of the sheriffs I've dealt with. But I've encountered cops who look like they just graduated junior high school last week. And they act not much better. And so you wonder about how difficult it is to become a police officer in some jurisdictions. My point simply is this, that you might find yourself at the side of the road in America with a police officer who looks like your grandchild. And he or she is questioning you about the documents you have and asking why you don't have an IDP. And when you say, well, I don't think I'm required to have one, he or she might have a different opinion on that. And these are things that you can get sorted out later, but you're on vacation. You don't want to be sorting this stuff out later. You want to be sorting it out now. And the other question I get asked all the time, they say, Steve, I come to America from Canada. I've got a driver's license and a passport. Driving around the wonderful state of Michigan or Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wyoming, Nevada, Idaho, you name it. It's not Georgia. And a police officer pulls me over. What laws apply to me as a foreigner in that situation? And I tell you that, believe it or not, our Constitution is drafted in such a way that it says these things address, for the most part, people. So it says that a person has rights within the boundaries of the United States. So when a police officer pulls you over, you've got the same rights I have when I get pulled over. Now, I've had people say, Steve, that's not true of the entire Constitution. Yeah, it's true. There's portions of the Constitution that talk about what citizens can do, certain citizens can do. But anybody within our borders pulled over at the side of the road has the same rights with respect to their constitutional rights. So same laws apply to you. Every video I've done where I say, here's how you should behave at the side of the road when pulled over by a police officer, applies to you. You know, what your rights are in a traffic stop, apply to you, because you are a person in a traffic stop in the United States, and the Constitution applies to you. So as far as the Constitution goes, the one thing I would caution you on is that we've often heard that ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that's just a saying. That's not actually the law. And so a lot of people will come here and will drive, and they won't know the law. Now, most of our laws are posted, like speed limits. You can look at a sign and go, hey, that's how fast I can go. Or a stop sign, assuming you can read English, you know what stop means, right? Stop. But you might not know, for instance, that right turns on red are legal in some states and not others. I don't know if they're actually illegal anywhere, but I just know that it was one of those things that went state by state for a while. Seatbelt laws. Some states will have signs near the border saying, we require seatbelts, but, so you should try to find out what the laws are in the state you're driving in, keeping in mind that all 50 states could have their own sets of laws, and some things vary wildly from state to state. I understand there's a state in the Northeast of America where adults don't have to wear seatbelts. I believe it's just one state. So again, you got one state, no seatbelt. Another state, you need your own driver's license. I mean, so it can vary from state to state. So if you're going to visit someplace, you know somebody there, ask them. If you don't know anybody there, find somebody to ask. The cool thing is all this stuff's on the internet now. So you can actually type in, I am a foreigner visiting Michigan. What do I need to know about driver's licenses? What do I need to know about driving laws, traffic laws? Or I'm going to visit Ohio. What do I need to know? And amazingly, all this stuff is out there. So that's what you need to know. But again, generally speaking, 49 states, your foreign driver's license and your passport will do it for you. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, the Constitution applies to you like it does to us. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.